It's time for this.
Fuck, it's Gary Oldman.
The best of the worst.
It's cool when you said let's rock because it made me want to rock.
I'm always naked. Welcome to Whitty Analysis of Feature Films and Light Entertainment Podcast, Episode 12. My name's Billy.
And I am the one that they sometimes refer to as, "Oi, you, knobhead."
Welcome, knobhead, and welcome, strangers. This is the podcast where we break down lots of things, usually films and various other things. We've got our tips out this week. Sean made me listen to Lord of the Rings, the musical soundtrack last week, which was, well, you'll find out what that was like. And you'll be pleased to know that we're back to Old White Guys in our Director's series, because they do make the best films, we all know that. We're going with Robert Zemeckis this week. His highest rated film on Rotten Tomatoes is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And then we find out what it was be like if we actually lived in Toontown in Welcome to Marwen, sort of.
I didn't notice the connection really until I started watching them both. I was like, oh, wait a minute.
I can see why he got this gig, yeah. So that's his lowest rated film at only 34% on Rotten Tomatoes, that one. So Robert Zemeckis, he's got a lot of good films. We sort of wish we'd been watching Back to the Future. We'll have to review that at another point.
Forrest Gump, for me, that's my favourite, I think.
All right, yeah.
Well, that and Back to the Future.
How are you, Sean? Oh, Sean's here, by the way. The knobhead is Sean.
Yeah, I am. My name is Sean, yes. I am alright. Like I said, not that I don't like doing this, but I was like, this isn't going to happen tonight. I was like, I'm going to have to cancel again. I can't do this. I've had a nightmare day tech-wise.
Yeah.
I won't bore people with the details, but I'm glad to just be talking nonsense with you tonight.
Yeah, this is a beautiful release, this, isn't it, podcasting? I like it when we get to speak together. I also like the 3-hour conversation that we tend to have afterwards, even though we say we're going to bed.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So, yeah, welcome, listeners. So that's the show that we've got in store for you today. I've treated myself, I'm just going to tell you this, Sean, the listeners may not care, I'm going to find out at some point this week what a £30 beer tastes like.
I was going to say, it does look like a wine ball. But
yeah. £32. What? Mama Bear's Sour Cherry Pie, a burgundy sour ale aged in oak barrels with Colorado Montgomery cherries, harvested in 2017.
Bloody hell.
I had a bit extra beer credit on my account, and I decided, well, I've brewed enough beer to keep myself going for about a year. So I don't really need any normal drinking beer. I'm going to try and find out what it tastes like to live the high life.
Well, I'm drinking Blue Moon. That was like $5.99 for 6 cans, so you know.
You're still in the Blue Moon?
Oh, yeah, they're still saying this.
I noticed that Tesco's have a different flavour. They have peach Blue Moon in now.
I might have to try that one day. I've got the orange in it this time.
You got the orange in it? Ah, yes, I did pick up on that last time. Get on that. Aye, so I do like a beer, but that's over the top even for me, I think. Have you heard of this?
What's this? Oh, I see, it's a swastika.
Mouse.
No.
By Art Spiegelman.
No, but it looks really... See, is that a Hitler mouse?
No, it's a cat. Hitler's a cat.
It's a very blurred picture there.
It's the only graphic novel to win a Pulitzer Prize. I didn't know about it. It's a cartoon strip that started in the 80s. It's sort of drawn like, say, Eastern European propaganda. And it's basically the story of this Polish guy telling his son in America, they've gone to America, what it was like during the Holocaust. They're both mice. The Nazis are cats. The Polish people, I think, are pigs. And Americans are dogs. I'm yet to get to the part where we find out why that is or how that plays in. But it's actually 2 chapters in. It's just a really nice sort of story.
I dread to think one was the Brits or...
I don't even think we feature in it. I bet you didn't think I'd be getting expensive beers and swastikas out tonight. This week, we are brought to you by, once again, Podbean.
Yes.
Sean, do you think you could just do a podcast?
I thought that one day, yes. But I was proven a little bit wrong.
Harder than it sounds, isn't it?
Is.
It's not just talking. There's all kinds of things to consider. But luckily, Podbean has got your back. They have everything you need to start and host your own podcast. Sean, have you ever wondered how, when people say, Anywhere you get your podcasts, that's where you'll find us. How the fuck they do that?
I thought that's a lot of logging in at different accounts.
Me too, but it's not.
not.
You just use a hosting site like Podbean. That's what we use, and it's worked fine for us.
Yeah.
If you look down into the episode description below, you'll find links to our affiliate link for unlimited hosting plan and business hosting plan. Those are two that they offer. If you sign up, you'll get a free month with our affiliate link, and so will we. So you'll be helping us out as well. There's also advertising on Podbean. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but you can advertise on our podcast. We've got it set for as little as $0 you can advertise right here, so it could just pop into here. There'd be an advert for whatever it is that you do. What would you advertise on our podcast, Sean?
Like I said last time, this podcast.
Brilliant. On with the show?
Awesome. Let's do it.
Right. Always remember that you can get in touch with us by all of the things in the episode description down below, but you can also leave us a voicemail, which is going to come in handy later on www.speakpipe.com/wafflepod. Get your tips out for the pod. Get your tips out.
Hello.
Get your tips out. This is a section where me and Sean give each other homework. So we trade off one thing every week. Sean last week made me watch Lord of the Rings, and instead of giving him something new this week, we're both going to take a tip from our listener, Brian, who phoned in last week to recommend that we watch The Outsiders or Krull, and I think we've unanimously decided it will be The Outsiders. But more on Brian's episode later on in the show. So, Sean, last week,
Yes.
Lord of the Rings, the musical, the soundtrack.
Yes, all of those.
Those, yeah.
2 seconds. Right, you'll know that England are playing in the Euros semi-final. I don't know if you can hear, but my neighbours are going mental, so I'm guessing they've scored.
I can't hear at this end, so I don't think you'll be recording.
That's all right then. So yes, the Lord of the Rings, the musical, the soundtrack, the album. The thoughts?
My thoughts, right, so I made notes going through, and I haven't really sort of processed them properly, so hopefully what you'll get here is me live processing what I wrote down as I was listening to it, and then hopefully come to some sort of conclusion at the end. So it starts off with The Road Goes On, and that's sort of like a shanty thing. There's a nice fugal chorus. It leads into sort of epic venture and then back to shanty. I really enjoyed that as a setup. That sort of gives you a lot of what you're going to be getting, themes and stuff. They do that with musicals anyway. They put a lot of the themes in the intro song.
Yeah.
Really good. The next one is Saruman. Real sort of sense of ethereal reverence, gradually bleeding into more minor tones, so setting up the sort of more sinister side of Saruman, which I thought was good. The Cat on the Moon, I thought was a funny party jig, felt sort of Irish. There's a lot of influences in here, and I think I've made notes as we go through, but, there's certainly Irish Celtic, there's definitely some Norse, I would say. There's other Celtics, there's sort of Middle England and all that sort of thing, folky sort of thing. Flight to the Ford, it's sort of a choral chant versus driving percussion. And at the time of listening, I wrote down it's almost like the Man of Steel soundtrack.
Right, yeah.
That really sort of percussive drive that it has. They use the percussion well to increase the pace and the danger. Sort of really sort of ramps up, and I can imagine that would feed the live action really well. I haven't seen the show. I don't know if you have. Have you?
No.
Oh,
I've
damn.
seen little trailers and clips and stuff, but unfortunately I couldn't get to see it. They did record it, but there just doesn't seem to be one available.
So on the Flight to the Ford as well, I also thought the vocalist, I don't know who it was, but sounded a bit like sort of Lisa Gerrard style vocals from Gladiator. Again,
Right.
all of my touchstones seem to be Hans Zimmer, and I know that he didn't do this.
I think, because I watched a documentary about the making of it, I think her name might be, I think it's Velma Ferovich or something like that. I could be wrong, or Alma Ferovich.
Yeah.
I do apologise, but I think that's her name.
And we've got the Song of Hope 1, which leads me to believe there will be a second, as I was listening to this. And I actually thought that this could be a Disney. This is where I started to think, right, well, we haven't got the live show anymore. Someone needs to call Disney and get this set up, because we could animate this. Like, this could be put to some amazing animation, maybe not even Disney. Maybe get our Wolf Walkers guys from Cartoon Saloon, who've taken over from Ghibli, get them to do it. I don't know if you've seen on Now TV at the moment, there's an animation of Riverdance.
I watched it with my daughter the other day.
Absolutely fantastic, isn't it?
I love that film, yeah. When I looked at the start, I don't know if I want to watch this, but my daughter was like, oh, let's watch this. the big, she called it a reindeer. I was like, all right, we'll watch it. And then
Very similar story with me and my niece. She wanted to watch it, and I was like, I'll bring it on. And then she was like watching it, but also playing. I'm like, you need to focus on this. This is a very good film. This animation is amazing. And they've integrated and really sort of incorporated all of the Riverdance into this. I'm like, they've done a really good job with this. But that's not what we're talking about. So the star of Arendelle. This was when the sort of Celtic Norse Frozen 2 sort of thing came into it. I was like, and I wrote down in my notes, Disney should definitely get involved with this now.
I love the end of that song. The end of that song's amazing.
Is it? I mean, it's been a week since I listened to it, so I'm literally just going through to remind myself. I've wrote down the Golden Wood. It didn't really do anything for me.
I think that's something that comes out in the visual. I think the visual of it, I think that's the start when they get to Lothlorien.
Right.
So I think all the set will be coming out when that music's playing and things like that.
Right, okay. So it's like an intermission sort of thing as they transition through to Lothlorien, because Lothlorien is the next one. And what did I write here? It says it's actually looking... Oh, I think that meant losing. I think it's losing some of its charm now that it seems to have gone full Disney. Like, they seem to have been doing a full Disney soundtrack. And again, that might change. It might keep the authenticity if I was seeing the live stuff as well.
That was the first song I heard from it.
Lothlorien, was it?
And I was like, oh, I need to listen to more of that.
Yeah, it is really good, and I just thought it's kind of transitioned from quite a sort of an authentic folk influence piece or orchestral thing to a commercial product style music.
Right.
But who knows? I only listened to it once. We've got the Siege of the City of Kings. I actually just wrote down then, too much now, give me a break. Now and for Always is a Samwise Hobbit song, and I've just wrote, this is the break I wanted. So just as I'm thinking I need a break, the break comes. So I made an extra sort of little note on this. I was like, the ubiquity of our nature as storytellers, the go away, come back, tell stories sort of thing. So I was thinking of like the Samwise's story, and the lyrics of that song, it just sort of speaks to what we are as storytellers. All we do is we go out, we have experiences, and we come back and tell each other about them. That's fucking literally what I'm doing just now.
Meta.
One of the lyrics I'll just read out. It says, sit by the firelight's glow, tell us an old story we know, tell of adventures strange and rare, never changed, ever to share. Stories that we tell cast their spell now and for always. And that brings tears to my eyes just sitting reading that. I thought it was really beautiful.
It's amazing. For a musical that's got loads of, I know you're going through each one, but for musical that's got loads of epic music in it, that's probably my favourite song in the whole thing. Lothlorien was for a long while, and then it was one you'll get to in a minute, but I do love Now and For Always. Such just like a nice, like I said, it is a nice break.
Yeah, it's just lovely. I had it on in the background whilst I was working, cried at my desk. Smeagol and Gollum, I just wrote, hate this, because I've always hated that Gollum thing. I've never liked listening to it. I didn't mind the actual story of it and how it all happens and comes about. I just that voice just grates for some reason.
It's impressive though, because it's a guy it's a duet with himself, so it's a solo duet.
Oh yeah, aye. I can imagine like watching it on stage. You would appreciate the artistry in the performance. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Song of Hope 2. I just wrote bland. I thought it was really well written, but didn't do anything for me.
Wonder was the one I was talking about. I love Wonder. I love it. Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, aye. No, I mean, listening to it, I heard everything going on, and I was like, oh, you know what? I can see the strings, and this is beautiful, but it's not moving me like called a Now and For Always. And I knew I was sort of coming to the end, and I thought, I kind of wanted to be moved now. This is when I want to be affected by it, sort of thing. And then we got the final battle. The only words I wrote down here was brilliant, epic, great use of the orchestra, and music in general. Just absolutely fantastic and a great way to finish. And I did look up some clips. You know, when you see them dancing, the hobbits dancing around the stage, I'm like, I want to be part of that. Yeah. But I do think this could be animated really well. Yeah. By whoever got hold, because it was only a small animation studio that did Riverdance. Give it to a small animation studio. They've got this music to build on. Yeah. The right people could do amazing things with it, I reckon.
Amazon are doing a lot of stuff with Lord of the Rings at the minute. Obviously, they've spent all the money on getting the rights for it and stuff like that. And
yeah.
They've got the series. I'm pretty sure there was like an animated thing mentioned about it. I doubt it's this. That's the thing. Like, it's weird how obviously Now and For Always, Lothlorien, those two songs really got me when I first heard it. But it is weird how some of them, like, I don't know if you mentioned it there, but the Lament for Moria. Don't know if, because I know some of the playlists on the internet don't have them all.
Okay, I may have missed something in that case, yeah.
Well, there's a prologue instrumental and there's Lament for Moria, and it's just Gandalf and Gimli.
I did listen to the prologue. That's the first thing I listened to, actually, before I then found a playlist with everything on it. So, yeah, hi.
Right, yeah.
I did listen to that.
But yeah, because that Lament for Moria, I first found the album online before I bought it myself, and that wasn't on it when I first heard it.
Mm.
But so yeah, it's just Gandalf and Gimli singing, and it's very slow. It's between the Golden Wood and Star of Arendelle. But yeah, it some of the songs just don't connect you. But it's a musical. You're meant to watch it. But having said that, I've never seen this. I've watched loads of clips online. And so there was a documentary online about how it was made, but I can't find it anymore. It was on YouTube, but I think it must be gone. But it's just impressive. But that's the thing. It was just too expensive to run, which is a shame. I've always thought it would be great. You know, a couple of years ago they did Batman Live, like an arena tour.
Yeah, I went to that in Newcastle. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to that in Newcastle as well. I think that would be great, like an arena musical. They did it with Jesus Christ Superstar a while ago,
with the sort of big elongated stage in the middle, so you've got like a sort of like a catwalk of hobbits dancing up and down, sort of thing. And that would be really cool. I say I do want to see it, and I mean I can see why it went away, but it's a shame because it's so good, and it's one of the guys who worked on We found out this week that we may have a way in to one of the composers for this, which would be amazing if he decided to pop into the pod booth at some point and have a little chat with us about some of this, because I definitely really did like this. The thing I was going to say was, you've now forced 2 musicals on me, and I've really enjoyed both of them. This didn't do for me what Hadestown did. Hadestown, I felt the whole story coming through just in the music, whereas this, I felt would have been a brilliant complement to whatever else was going on the stage. Possibly because I already am more familiar with this story because it's more recently told than I was with the other. So I was maybe trying to put too much of my own stuff on the music. Yeah. And it's a big story to tell in just a few short songs, isn't it, when you think about it? But they hit all the main bits. I don't know where Gandalf was in this.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. He sings in that Lament for Moria. That's his song.
All right, okay.
I think he features in the background of a few other songs. But I think he's more, from what I can gather, I think he's like a narrator for the show as well. I think he like narrates it, so there'd have been a lot more speaking from Gandalf.
Cool, but yeah, thanks for this, Sean, because I know you've sent me bits of this before, and I've thought, well, I don't want to listen to all this because I want to see the whole thing as a whole piece.
Honestly, at least maybe twice a year I check.
But I really do think... call us Disney.
yeah. Get on it, Disney.
It is a shame because the thing is, I think now that Amazon spent a lot of money and all that sort of stuff getting the rights to it, but Lord of the Rings should just be one of those ones that's just lapsed copyright. It's been going on for so Red Riding Hood, that sort of thing. I'm trying to think of an example, but yeah, I would like everyone just to have a stab at it.
Yeah, but I think the public domain. I think is if something's out for 100 years, it goes into the public domain. But then again, if someone can get a hold of that IP quick and get the
passed on to estates and stuff, and it can keep going, perpetual nonsense, which is a shame. But I mean, yes, I would recommend that everyone give this a bash. It's not going to take up too much of your time. Whack it on the background while you're working, or while you're doing anything else, but while you're cooking. Probably a good cooking one, actually. And just make sure that when you come to Now and For Always, you start cutting some onions, so you've got an excuse. Yeah, so well recommended, Sean. The shame for now is I've still got 3 recommendations that I want to give to you sat in front of us, but we're not doing that. We're using Brian's tip from the audio clip, which I'll insert here.
Hi guys, it's Brian here. First of all, just want to say absolutely loving the podcast while I'm out being a postie. Really enjoying it. Lots of fun, lots of laughter and some good stuff in there, making me want to watch lots of things. Anyway, really wanted to get involved in the tips section, if that's possible, because it's fun, it's different, and I want to give you my spin on what I liked. So my first tip, I'm giving you 2 choices, but my first tip is called Krull, K-R-U-L-L, and this was the first movie I ever went to watch in the cinema for my birthday. It's 1983. A bit sci-fi. Hope you choose that one. Or number 2 is a book or a movie, and it's called The Outsiders. The movie has an all-star cast. when they were very young, I might add. But another excellent movie. Now, I'll leave it up to you because you may have seen one or the other between you both. I don't know. But anyway, good luck and hope you enjoy. Thank you. Bye.
So he wants us to watch Krull or The Outsiders. You've seen The Outsiders, haven't you?
Years ago. I don't think I've seen it since I was in school. And I've not been in school for a while.
Right. Because I didn't realise who was all in this, but you've got, your Rob Lowe, you've got your Karate Kids, you've got Mighty Ducks guy, everything. It's basically all of my childhood heroes, I think, sort of coming up in this.
It's an amazing cast.
I think this was slightly before my time, I think, so that's why I missed it. I mean, to say before my time, you've seen it.
Well, I think I was introduced to it in high school. This was the first time I watched it. When some days teachers just get lazy, so put a film on. And they'll wheel in those big TVs on the big frames. I think it was a certain English teacher that you would have had as well.
I remember him. Yes, yeah. It was that, and it was something. We got Lord of the Flies. Was basically Friday afternoon. He can't be asked. We'll put Lord of the Flies on TV, and then read a chapter over the weekend. Whatever. I'm off to bed.
Yeah, it was that. I watched Mice and Men, and that became one of my favourite books because of that. So we watched that.
Aye. Yeah, I only had him for 1 year, so I didn't get as many videos.
Sunset Song, that was one of them.
Sunset Song, I got that from another teacher, actually, another English teacher at school.
All right. Some teachers were awesome.
God, I loved most of my teachers at school. You appreciate them more when you leave. Even the ones that you didn't really feel like you got on with, you were like, they were really trying. And I was really trying.
Yeah.
So we're sorry. Well, we're sorry. I'm sorry if I was at all difficult for any teachers, apart from a certain music teacher because she was the worst.
All right. One of my favourite teachers was the only one to give me detention twice, and I don't blame her because the first times because we had a lazy day one day and we had to do a crossword or make a word search, and I filled all the gaps in with swear words and she found it. So I don't blame her,
So then that's a lot of stuff for us to cut out. So next week we're both watching The Outsiders for episode Brian, number 13. Unlucky for him.
I'm sure it'll be a belter of an episode.
Next section.
Let's go.
The film review section. This week we are reviewing the best rated film of our chosen director, Bobby Zemeckis.
Bob Zemeckis.
That's his name, isn't it? Bobby Zemeckis. His best rated film, although he's done many, is Who Rogered the Rabbit? No.
No.
Who Framed Roger's Rabbit? Of course it is Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the 1988 film.
It's the same age as me.
Is it?
It is.
Also, it is, yeah. I would have been old enough to see this in a cinema, but I definitely didn't. I definitely watched it on TV with parents when it came out. Just straight up top, I absolutely fucking loved this as a kid, and I still do now.
Snap.
and I have more of an appreciation for it every time I watch it.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a good review, I think.
I'm
really looking forward to this. So what we do, people, just to let you know, we're going to do all spoilers with this and with both of our film reviews this time because this has been out for a million years, or at least as long as Sean's been alive.
Yeah.
And the next one is based on a documentary that's based on a guy's life.
Yeah.
So, Sean, do you want to do a synopsis for this one, or shall I?
I'll do this one, yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's a world which I kind of wish existed where humans and cartoons live side by side. And someone has killed the Acme guy who creates all the best traps just ever, and they've framed a rabbit called Roger, hence the name of the title. So it's up to Eddie Valiant, the sort of bitter guy who hates toons because of a reason they killed his brother. It's up to him to sort of clear Roger's name after he actually took pictures of Roger's wife playing patty cake with the said dead man. So it's up to the unlucky duo of Eddie and Roger to find out what the actual F is going on in Toontown.
That's it.
That is it.
Is it set in 1950s? Is it the 50s detective sort of thing?
I was trying to figure it out, but I think it might be 50s. Yeah, 50s, maybe early 60s.
Just in those first couple of sentences in your synopsis there, though, I wrote down, I had to get a pen because I'm like, I don't want to forget this, and wrote on my hand, I love the Acme gags.
Yeah.
That hole that you put in the wall, I really wanted that to be an actual thing. I mean, like, you see it on the TV as a kid and you're like, hold on.
That must be real.
I thought this was just in cartoons. This must be real. Like, that's amazing. I bought one of those buzzers because of this film. Like, I was the kid who had that fake springy chewing gum packet in the playground that snapped your fingers.
I remember you had, I fell for that once or twice.
I was always too empathetic, though. I would always tell people before it smashed the fingers because it hurt, and I'm like, I don't want to hurt you. I think it's funny though.
I remember you had one of them. I think it was like a Wrigley's one, wasn't it? Like
double mint, I think. Yeah.
And I remember finding it once when I was at yours, and I was thinking, oh yeah, this is that trick thing. And I just thought, I wonder how sore it actually is. And I just, you bastard!
Really sore. I mean, it could take your skin off if you got it wrong. Like,
it's horrible.
If you actually tried to get your hand away from it, it would just glom onto your bloody knuckle and just rip your skin off. So
it's like, no, I'm getting something off that finger.
But Toontown as well. Like, it's so simple.
Yeah.
Just through a tunnel, and there you are, you're in Toontown.
It's amazing.
I wish that could be a thing. But what they do with it as well.
Yeah, they don't go a lot into it, but it gives you a bit of like, it's without going much into Toontown, but it tells you so much about it.
No, because it would have been incredibly expensive to go into Toontown.
Yeah, but they tell you so much about it, and like without overly going on about it, they set it up quite well. You get what it is, but obviously it's a great thing of like, I can just imagine going, this would be great, very expensive though. Well, what can we do? We need to go to Toontown. How about the main guy he hates going to Toontown because he killed his brother. Yes, we're in. Boom, that's how
exactly. We've cracked that story point, haven't we? Good. Yeah. I mean, this came from because I watched the opening of it, and you've got like your opening Looney Tunes, and I'm like,
love that.
How's the copyright working on this? And you've got like the whole animation thing, and then you've got Disney characters, you've got Looney Tunes characters, you've got absolutely everything, and I'm like, how the hell did this come together?
I'll get to that in my
Steven
trivia.
Spielberg. Well, maybe do trivia up top because I've got quite a bit of things that may be classed as trivia. But I mean, I just want to say this came from that stable of people.
Yeah,
Robert Zemeckis, Steven Spielberg, Kathleen Kennedy. A lot of people don't realize how much influence she's had on Hollywood and the industry.
Yeah. People might think she's fucked up Star Wars, but yeah.
She's done amazing at Star Wars. She's had a finger in more pies than Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
She's been doing everything just in the background. She gets things made. Like, she got Back to the Future made. She got this going and all that sort of thing. But let's do your trivia before I ruin absolutely everything because I've got a lot.
Well, to be fair, the thing you mentioned about that, like, I've got a bit more of a detail on why that happened. Spielberg isn't involved in the detail, but yeah, we'll get into me trivia.
John's Trivia Corner.
One thing I found really strange straight from the off, before we get to that one you mentioned, is Kathleen Turner voiced Jessica Rabbit. She's uncredited as providing the voice for Jessica Rabbit.
Right.
And I couldn't find out why. I had tried to have a look. No idea, but she's uncredited. Weirdly, though, Amy Irvin, who did the singing voice for Jessica Rabbit, is credited.
Bizarre, isn't it?
I don't know if something's happened there or what, but yeah, she wasn't.
No clue.
And she's really, at the time, obviously, even maybe not so much now, but at the time, she was really well known. And obviously, she might be more known now for playing Chandler's dad in Friends. But, but yeah, it's just a bit strange how she wasn't credited. And she had quite a decent role in that.
While we're on that, though, Jessica Rabbit, that's where I think my love of women came from. I would have been anywhere between 4 and 6 year old when I first watched this. Yeah. And at the age when kids are going about school going, girls, and I'm like, I'm not entirely sure you understand girls in every situation, by the way. Have you seen Jessica Rabbit, lads?
You get in trouble in primary school for showing pictures of Jessica Rabbit around the playground.
But even now, like, I mean, the shading and the animation, the shadows that they put on and stuff, it's so good. I should stop talking. Because I have a life to live outside of this podcast, and a sexual attraction towards cartoon characters may not feed well into that, so I'm going to stop.
So it was again originally based on a book which I didn't know. I didn't know.
I didn't know that. No, but I tried to buy the book last night.
Who censored Roger Rabbit?
Yeah, very expensive to buy.
Yeah. I imagine it is.
I'm currently bidding on one on eBay. It's up to £2 with £1.20 postage, but they generally tend to go for about £20 by the looks of it.
Right. Yeah.
That's not my kind of money.
No.
I read a little bit about it, actually, now that we're in trivia. And it was Roger Rabbit had got killed, I think, and that was censoring Roger Rabbit. So the book was based around Roger Rabbit having been shot up and censored and killed. Similar sort of story, Eddie Valiant was investigating, but you didn't have Roger Rabbit bouncing around sort of thing. And it looks way more sinister, just the cover looks weird and stuff like that. And it's an odd concept. I mean, Toontown, in a book, you can do a lot with it, but what?
Yeah.
So a lot of the character names were similar, but they didn't really stick to the story, obviously.
About a month or so, about a year or so ago, I found out like Bambi was based on a book. Fox and the Hound was based on a book.
Really?
Yeah. And apparently they're a lot more darker and a lot more sinister, but obviously when someone at Disney must have been, I found this book, it's a bit weird. It's about a deer.
They can be. I bought Edward Lear's Book of Nonsense a couple of years ago, just to see, because I heard a lot about it, and just it was written for children during, I think it was the Victorian Edwardian times, and it was just written for children that he knew or worked with the family in some way. And it's really dark and really weird and really quite disgusting in a lot of ways. It's all that. There was an old man from blank. He wanted to do a wank. He tripped down the stairs. He was wearing some flares, and now he works in a bank. That sort of thing. It's all that, but there's some, like, you know, the classics, but there are some odd fucking things in that book.
So you mentioned before, obviously, Disney and Warner Brother cartoon characters coming together. Touchstone, who made the film, owned by Disney, so they can have the Disney characters. And so they wanted to use other characters, but Warner Brothers would only let them use the biggest characters like Bugs, Daffy, Porky Pig, if they had the same amount of screen time as the Disney ones.
Yeah.
So that's why when you see them, they're always together.
Yeah, and also, like, so your Daffy Duck and your Donald Duck had to be equally good on piano. Did you know that?
Yeah, It's just, I love that dueling piano scene.
But it's an odd thing to think that they had to make them equal in every scene. And, like, so was it Bugs Bunny falling with Mickey Mouse?
Mickey Mouse. Yeah. So this won a few Oscars. It won Best Editing, Sound Effects Editing, and Visual Effects. It was nominated for cinematography, sound, and art direction. And Richard Williams, who voiced Droopy in that scene with the lift, he was also an animation director on the film. He won the Special Achievement Award Oscar that year as well. I knew it was like nominated for a few, but I didn't know it actually won.
I didn't know that either. I mean, so one for editing, that was Arthur Schmidt who edited that one, and you can see. I mean, it's amazing. The editing is amazing. I mean, most of the animation is done in the editing, and I don't know if the steps are any true, but the animation, the 3D lighting and the shadows and all that sort of stuff were added on by ILM, like George Lucas's animation studio.
Yeah, I did find things about that, but I was running out of space to write all my trivia then.
To take on from what you were saying there, Arthur Schmidt, he did Who Framed Roger Rabbit, obviously Forrest Gump as well. Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, loads of other things. Jaws 2 he did, Back to the Future Part 2 and 3. So he's kind of stuck all the way along the way. Castaway he did. What Lies Beneath, that's a really interesting film. Have you seen that? Zemeckis,
yeah, ages ago.
The other thing I was going to mention, you mentioned that he was nominated but didn't win, was Dean Cundy.
Yeah, cinematography.
I thought the cinematography in this, particularly for the time, was absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Movement of camera around the scene when everything had to be so precise because they were animating later. Just really stunning work.
That's the thing. Like, I watched a behind the scenes thing of this years ago. I was going to try and watch it again for this, but I didn't have the time to get around to it. But like, just how much practice had to go in, because like the cartoon's going to be there. The actors had to know. The cinematographer had to know. Lighting. Everybody would have to know exactly. And for the time. I don't like saying this because it's the same age as me, but back then, a few films had done stuff like this. Obviously, the one that no one's allowed to talk about anymore, Song of the South.
But if you didn't have this, you wouldn't have
Mary Poppins.
Groot or Rocket Raccoon now.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking that when I was
of
watching
course.
this, I'm like, oh, they did. I mean, and when they were doing this, like you say, they didn't have the green tennis balls or the volumes or anything like that then. It was just on set, and they had replicas of the actual characters and stuff, and they had the actors dressed up as, you know, bunnies screaming in the background and stuff like that. So Dean Cundey, I was going to mention, he did, funnily enough, Back to the Future, which we know of, and then a bunch of other films that we might be interested in next week. Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh.
Escape from New York. Escape from LA as well. Hook and Jurassic Park.
Hey, look at this.
Same cinematographer, and Apollo 13. So really good cinematographer, yeah. I just thought...
It's not a name I know.
It's a name I recognize. When I saw it, I recognised. I'm like, I'm sure I've seen him in a lot of places. And then I looked at his IMDb or Wikipedia page, and I'm like, oh yeah. He's done everything. He was basically the cinematographer for that era when Spielberg and Kathleen Kennedy and Robert Zemeckis and George Lucas were in charge of Hollywood, basically. Sorry, I keep jumping in.
No, it's fine. It's all good. I've only actually got 2 more to go, so we're fine. So, originally, I didn't look at how much, so I don't know if they wanted him or they said that's who the guy's going to be, or they were interested. But Bill Murray's name was thrown up to play Eddie, but they couldn't find him. And I was like, what do you mean you couldn't find him? So I looked into it. They just couldn't get a hold of him. And eventually, obviously, it went on the cast. Hoskins. His name just completely went out of my head there.
Bob Hoskins.
Bill Murray found out about this when he was reading an interview or listening to an interview or something. And he found out, and he was in public somewhere, and he just screamed out in annoyance when he found out that they wanted him, because he said he would have definitely taken that job.
Well,
if he was asked.
I prefer that we had Bob Hoskins, because I prefer Bob Hoskins, to be honest.
Yeah. I love Bob Hoskins. Last one, which is quite a cool one. So the shoe that gets dipped by, what's his name, Judge Doom. All it does is really squeak in the film. It doesn't really say anything, it just squeaks. It was voiced by Bart Simpson himself.
Really? I did know something about that, but you know, it's one of those things that's in the back of your head. It might pop out in a dream, but you're never going to remember it when you need to. That sort of things. If you ask that question in a quiz, it's not coming to your head, is it?
But I love how it's like, I'm pretty sure she was credited for that as well.
Yeah,
just a couple of
but
squeaks.
Jessica Rabbit wasn't credited in the slightest for.
There's got to. I don't want to be one of these guys, but there's got to be something to that.
Yeah. That could be a project.
Maybe at the time she was maybe at the time she was like, again, I'm just totally spitballing here. Maybe at the time she was like, this. I tell you what, don't credit me for this. It's fine. You know, it's about cartoons and noir crime. I'm not interested. It's fine. And a couple of years later, going, shite.
The thing that this does really well, and that Robert Zemeckis does really well in general, is he takes silly things, he handles the rest of it really seriously. In fact, he handles it all really seriously. So he does that here, where he's like, right, we've got a silly Toontown, but we're going to have an actual economy of Toontown. It's going to have an effect on, you know, the economics of the city. It's going to have a political impact. You know, they're going to have, people are going to be complaining about toons taking jobs and all that sort of thing. So he treats it really seriously, and Bob Hoskins plays it seriously. It's all very, and Zemeckis does that in Back to the Future. It's a really weird, wacky concept, but it's about connecting with your dad. That film.
That's the thing. There's always, I mean, there's something in the background of every film, but there's always like an underlying theme or underlying sort of message that he wants to get out in these films.
And I think that's why he got, like, I've written down as well, Death Becomes Her. He does that really stupid concept. Man kills his wife and I think a lover or something like that, and then they both come back and haunt him, but they're still alive. So they've got to keep up appearances.
Is that with
Bruce Willis? I think, is it Goldie Hawn?
Yeah, and one of them in the poster's got a hole in her chest.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. And then so you can see whether I was thinking I thought this whilst I was watching Welcome to Marwen. I'm like, he's doing the same thing here. There's something that's quite off or odd about this story and this experience and this sort of whole tale. But he's taken everything very seriously. And
it has to be. It's like, that's why I think it works. We know the concept. We see the poster. We see what it's about. Okay, someone frames a rabbit for committing a crime. A cartoon rabbit. All right, okay. And Bob Hoskins is a human. He has to go and... But if you played that as a knowing that's a stupid idea, the film doesn't work.
Yeah.
And you've got to... We know it's stupid, but let's just see what the story is, and let's just get lost in it. And it's got interesting characters and a good story. That's all you need. It's as simple as that. Take that, run with it, do what you want.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like you said. It's like I still love this film. A friend of mine who I've mentioned a couple of times, Nick, who I was actually trying to get him on because he's got a soft spot for Michael Bay. I was going to try and get him on for that episode, but he was busy working.
Oh, right. Damn.
And then he again can't get a hold of him because I was like, we're doing Roger Rabbit next. And he's like, it's his favourite film of all time.
We'll hope we do it justice for you, Nick.
And he was like, oh, man.
Well, we're not going to slate it anyway. I was actually thinking as we're going through, I mean, Nick will appreciate this then, I would imagine, given his film background and things like that. You can play a fantastic game of spot the cut in this,
right.
Trying to spot different things. I was rewinding scenes. So in the office, when Roger has his first drink, he goes nuts and he scoots up in the air.
Right.
And then Hoskins is strangling him. He throws him. Roger Rabbit jumps out the window. Then there's a smash print of Roger Rabbit through the blinds and the window. The transition of animation and real life throughout that, if you track it frame by frame, is something quite spectacular. Also, when the baby drops his stogie, so you know how Bob Hoskins pushes him, and he's got his cigar in the pram.
Yeah.
The way the camera moves, that's when I looked up Dean Cundy. He drops his stogie, you lose it a little bit, and then what it looks like is someone throws a real one in from off camera.
Right.
So it turns from animated into the real one that's just been chucked in. But it happens so quickly and the camera's moving so well that you're like, oh, it's amazing.
I did notice something like that. It was in the office just before Roger has that drink and flips out. And he's blowing his nose on the handkerchief.
Yes.
So, what's the character's name? R.K. Maroon takes it off him and it goes under the table. But when he comes back out and he hands it to Bob Hoskins, I think it's a very different... because it's animated to be wet. Right. This one's bone dry, I think. And it's a little bit darker, I think, in colour. But I noticed that because it went under the desk. He took it off Roger. His hand drops down under the desk. And it's there for a random amount of time and then it just comes back up again.
But you can play this game with almost every scene in this. And I'd quite happily sit down with Nick for a whole weekend and we can play that game. We can make a drinking game out of it or something. It'd be fantastic.
But that's the thing, though, because even then, you look at all this and it's still amazing. Like how it's done. It's just, and again, I don't want to keep saying this all the time, but the time it was made, it was
painstaking.
Really
I mean, like, you made the film, and Steven Spielberg was quoted, I can't remember what it was he said about the film when he saw the first rough cut with no animation. He was like, this just looks really spooky. Yeah. How's it going to work, sort of thing. But then they layered on the animation and then sent it to ILM, and then ILM layered on all that detail. Animation had never been done like that before. You'd never seen shadows in a real-life animation. You'd seen birds flying in and out, but you knew it was animation. This was properly integrated into the style of film, and the toon characters were lit like the real characters. You know, the first time that's ever happened.
Yeah. And the way I noticed, again, because I've not really... When I watch a cartoon, especially the type of cartoons this is based on, I don't really pay attention to stuff like this. I'm just watching either the cartoon mouse beat up the cats, chasing them and stuff like that. But the opening scene with the baby Herman scene, when he skids across the bathroom floor, it's a kitchen. He skids across the kitchen floor. His reflection in that floor is spot on. And I don't know if they do reflections in cartoons because I don't care. But it's
scale
so
and the angles that they use.
And the way when they fly around that room it makes that kitchen look like the size of a football pitch. It's just
Have you seen any of the others that they did of those?
No, I haven't. I didn't know they were a thing until I saw them on IMDb.
There's one on Disney. I watched the Trail mix-up on Disney Plus, and then I went to when I went to write my notes for tonight, I'm like, I'll just bung the extras on the DVD. There's loads of them. They've got like another 5, and it's all just basically Roger Rabbit loses control of this kid, barely escapes various different traps, and then everything works out all right in the end, and Roger gets pummeled by something. That's pretty much it. So there's quite a few of them. But I did think of this, like, where is the sequel to this? Because it's not like Zemeckis was shy making sequels. This was the era of everything that makes money gets a sequel. It cost $50 million and it made $389 million.
It's a nice little profit.
So where's the fucking sequel? Did you also hear that this got made because they reduced the budget to $30 million and then it cost $50 million anyway?
I skipped over something like that when I was looking at my trivia, yeah.
So basically, Touchstone weren't going to make it. And they said 50 million is too much to spend on a film like this. We can't guarantee it's going to make any money, so we're not making it at 50 million. So I think Spielberg came in, hacked it about and said, right, we can do it for 30. And then it cost 50 anyway. Classic Spielberg.
Oh, yeah. That's what makes him great, because you're just like, okay, well, tell them what they want to hear.
We'll get 20 million from somewhere. Imagine having those kind of balls to just know that you're going to get an extra $20 million when you've only got 30 million, when you've already got 30 million.
It's like, right, we need another 20 million. We're told, we'll put it this way, you give us another 20 million and we can make a bit more, or you lose 30 million and we'll have to shut down the film. That's the way, we filmed half the film, mate. We need another 20.
Christopher Lloyd as well. I forgot how good he was, and I forgot he was a toon until about halfway through this. I'm like, when he was starting to use the dip, I'm like, I remember now he's a toon. His eyes pop out and everything. Yeah, that last scene was amazing, terrifying. But apparently there was someone else who came in and read, and I now forget who it was. But they asked a lot of other people to do that role, and one of them was just too scary. Worth a Google? Tim Curry. He originally went in and everyone just said, that's way too scary. We can't have him in this. So apparently Tim Curry just played it really straight and really scary. So, yes.
He's scary in Home Alone too.
I mean, I remember being scared of Judge Doom, the Christopher Lloyd version. And he plays it really straight. He's going to destroy Toontown.
Before he even tunes out at the end and gets all high pitched voice and red eyes, even when he's just walking around the bar when he's looking for Roger
the fact that
Rabbit,
you never see him in full toon form either.
Interrogate.
You never really know what he looks like. Yeah. Like there's so many chances for sequels in this. I've no idea why they didn't do it.
Well, apparently there was one on it's on IMDb, is in development, but it's been in development for about 20 years. I think they were planning on wanting to go ahead with it, and there was a bit of talk.
It's one of those things where you could just do it now, not mention to call it out, but just do completely updated effects, so it's now real. Or it could be done like a really sort of retro thing. It would be a lovely callback to kind of have your 2D animation as it was back then, just put into it. I think, but you'd have to have a Steven Spielberg size set of balls to take this on.
Yeah, definitely. And another just random bit of trivia, and I only know this because, again, obviously I have a 5-year-old daughter. The guy in the bar scenes, the guy who gets the egg shoved in his mouth, and then you think he's going to rat out to Judge Doom where Roger is. But
I looked him up because I thought he looked like Sean Astin. I'm like, it can't be, because he would have been a child at this point.
He's Daddy Pig from Peppa Pig.
Is he?
Richard Ridings, yeah. His daughter's actually a well-known singer, but I can't remember her name, but one of our couple of listeners might know.
Tell us, listeners, email in, write in, leave a SpeakPipe message and tell us where we've gone wrong. Or, Nick, if we've missed anything and you really want to tell us about it, leave us a SpeakPipe message. We'll play you on the podcast. In fact, anyone who's listening, you can go on SpeakPipe and you've got 90 seconds, so you'll have to be snippy, like a rapid refresh style review.
But Daddy Pig is in Roger Rabbit. I love it. Anyway.
Brilliant. I've got a couple of quotes from this. Just because I felt like I should write a quote down, but I haven't. They're not really anything. It's like, tell me, Eddie, is that a rabbit on your pocket, or are you just pleased to see me?
Yeah.
Of course it's a rabbit. That's nothing. That's stupid. Like, she just wanted to say that because she's very sexy. And then she also says, I love you more than anyone's ever loved a rabbit. Which is nice as a sentiment in the scene. However, well, that's obvious because no one's ever loved a rabbit in the same way as you love a rabbit. Yeah, they shouldn't.
That way. Yeah,
they very shouldn't be loving a rabbit in that way because that's, I'm sure, illegal. It's all just bonkers, isn't it? That our surname's just Rabbit because he's a rabbit. he's called Roger Rabbit. Like,
yeah. I love the bit when she's in Eddie's office/flat apartment, and he's his kegs drop down, and when he goes to pick them up, when Dolores comes in, his head bounces off her tits, and her tits just wobble.
I think I missed that.
He's like, "Oh, sorry."
I could talk about this film for absolutely forever. It is little things, isn't it?
Things.
You notice them as well if you're really looking for them, like that thing with the stogie that I was on about.
But when I was looking at my trivia, I wasn't going to mention it, but now that I've said that, I might as well just keep talking about Jessica Rabbit's tits. There's a soundbite for you. So there was actually a bit of trivia about how they animated the bounce of her breasts. I think this just might be, I'm not saying the guy's a pervert, but whoever animated her exactly, maybe just an excuse for him to study women, because he wanted to get...
I honestly have no idea how he got anything done.
Yeah. I think he wanted to go for a sort of an unnatural bounce. So he figured out that, I can't remember the exact way, but when women are walking, their breasts they'll go down before they bounce up with the rhythm when they're walking.
Right.
So I think he animated it the opposite way to make it stand out more.
I'm sure he's like, I need to go on a research project, and that's why the budget is now 50 million and not 30.
And he spent an extra 20 just on watching women.
I'm off to the Smelly Tiger. What for? I need to watch strippers. Fucking different time, innit? Just
I'm going to be late for work. Why? Well, I was watching this woman go around the park, and I got a bit close. I asked if I could watch her breasts bounce when she walked, and she didn't really take too kindly to it.
My nutsack's now in my mouth. In a sort of comic toon kind of way.
I told her it's fine. I'm in Hollywood. I draw pictures and that didn't...
I just want to draw them. Shh, fella, that's enough from you.
I'm going to put it on a rabbit.
Is that enough for this one then, do we reckon?
Yeah, I think so.
Overall, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, one of my favourite films of all time. Robert Zemeckis, where he doesn't get good reviews all the time. I think I've liked every single one of his films. And,
oh, yeah.
You know, we'll talk about it when we get into his worst, but we'll also have a look through his back catalogue. I think I'm a bigger fan of him than I am of many other directors, and he seems to get a bit of a ribbon a lot of the time, does Zemeckis, especially in recent times.
Yeah.
But we'll get onto that when we get to the end. So yes, Who Framed Roger Rabbit is Robert Zemeckis' best film.
Yeah.
I definitely can't argue with that.
I mean, I would tie it with another couple, but yeah, it's definitely one of them.
Next section.
Let's go.
The best of the worst. This is where we take the worst rated film on Rotten Tomatoes, in this case of our director, Robert Zemeckis. His worst rated film with only 34% on Rotten Tomatoes is Welcome to Marwen, the 2018 film. Inspired by Jeff Malmberg's 2010 documentary Marwencol, which I kind of want to watch. But I've tried to find it, and it's either very expensive, or you can buy it for $5, but you've got to import it for 30 quid from France. Or you can maybe stream it, but maybe not. I'm not entirely sure, so that will take more looking into.
Right.
The film stars Steve Carell, Leslie Mann, Diane Kruger, Merritt Weaver, Janelle Monáe, Eliza Gonzalez, Gwendolyn Christie, and Leslie Zemeckis. And it follows a true story of Mark Hogenkamp, a man struggling with PTSD who, after being physically assaulted, creates a fictional village to ease his trauma. So in this section, we do good stuff and bad stuff. So we try and pick out the good stuff wherever we can in these worst-rated films. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's tricky. Sean, how did you find this one?
I think it's easy this time. I remember seeing the trailer for this, and I did not know it was based on a true story until the end credits.
Right, okay.
I knew nothing about this film. So a lot of my early notes might seem a bit mean.
Okay.
Because I did not know it was a true story.
Well, I knew a lot about this going in because this was Carell coming off the back of Foxcatchers, I think, wasn't it? And that was really stunning. I mean, I went to the cinema to see that, and it was just so unnerving. It's one of those ones where you watch it at home and it's fine. He's really good, and everything's really good in it.
Yeah.
But if you watch it in the cinema, you're just fucking uneasy. It's like a Joker.
Right.
But yeah, so he was coming off the back of this, so I was really keen for it, and then just didn't manage to catch it at the cinema. It was also coming off the back of Zemeckis' last film was The Walk, with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, again based on a documentary, based on a real-life story that I absolutely loved. And I'm like...
I've never seen that.
I loved The Walk, so then I went back and watched the documentary. So I heard of this one, Zemeckis adapting yet another documentary. Go for it, fella. And I saw interviews with Carell talking about the real guy, Mark Hogenkamp, and all that sort of thing. So I kind of went into this from the opposite opposite perspective to you. So carry on, sorry.
But yeah, so when I first heard about it and I saw the trailer and I remember thinking, this just doesn't look like my kind of film. And to be honest, I probably would have watched it if I didn't have to for this. But I'm glad I did. I actually really enjoyed this film. Really enjoyed it. More than I thought.
I did the first time. I started noticing a few more things the second time through. But
I mean, the opening bit, like I've written down here, is it meant to look odd and cheap? And then there was just obviously because I got the gist of what it was about. I remember seeing the trailers when it first came out, like in 2017. Yeah. So I made a point to not look into it too much. I thought I'm just going to go in completely open mind, and I just couldn't. The opening scene, it's impressive. I just could not get into it. I was like, oh, this is going to be a long one for me. This.
He does commit to that animation for a good long while before you actually find out what's going on, doesn't he? Like it could have been snippier, that.
Yeah, and I just couldn't tell because obviously. We're doing all spoilers here, so obviously the animation, it's basically just it's a performance of what's going on in his head, basically. So he's filming these toys outside, so that's what's kind of throwing me off a bit. I was like, the toy animation looks a bit weird. Is it just makeup? No, it's not. Okay, what's going on? Why does everything else look so real? And it threw me off immensely until it kicked in, and then I realized what was going on. Then it cut to him in real life, quote unquote. And then I was like, okay, I know what the crack is here, and it was fine after that. But that first opening scene, whilst impressive, I was like, I wasn't quite sure how it was going to work.
Animation-wise, I mean, that's one of the things I've got to be positive is the animation. Like, it looks absolutely stunning, and it's really amazing.
Oh yeah.
For some reason, that animation, when you look at the animation and how that's done as part of the story, it makes me want the still images more. Because the still images that Mark Hogenkamp put together are way more impactful, and you sort of visualize them more in your mind. You sort of visualize the action based on the still images. Whereas Zemeckis is actually just presenting it to you, the whole action in front of you. And it's way less impactful because you, like picture any art, you interpret more yourself sort of thing. Whereas there's less room for that when you've got it just laid out in front of you here.
Yeah, but I like the story he creates with the toys and the thing he's wanting to tell. Because that's one I kind of started questioning. Before it kicks in, you really find out what this guy's gone through and what he's going through.
Yeah.
Like near the start, I was thinking, would I rather see a full film of this animated story, this made-up storyline, or am I okay watching this, or do I just want to see what he's going through rather than
I was actually thinking that. Like, I didn't the first time I watched it through, but when I was, when you're writing things down and making notes, I was thinking exactly the same thing, Sean. Like, halfway through, I'm like, would I want just the animation, or would I want a more of a straight, this guy's dealing with trauma and we see things from his perspective in the real world? Because I think what he's trying to do here, Zemeckis, is sort of bring to life what's going on in Hogenkamp's head. Yeah. And you can't really do that because you've no idea what's going on in his head because his head isn't working in the same way.
Yeah.
Aye. So it's quite difficult to do. And I think from what I gather, the documentary does it really well. But of course it would do because you're interviewing the real guy and you've got that.
Yeah.
Carell's performance in this, though, for me,
phenomenal.
Absolutely stunning again. I mean, like I said, coming off the back of Foxcatcher, no idea that Carell had that in him.
Yeah.
So I was really looking forward to this. And this is...
He's a brilliant actor.
He really is, actually, yeah. Aye. Just some of the things that he does with this, like, I'll look into my negatives now. Like, a lot of people were saying at the time when it came out that he comes across as creepy. But I just think it's more of just sort of an honest portrayal of a guy who's had this trauma and... His mind doesn't work in the same way now. He can't draw. Social norms can't really apply to him, and therefore that will create some situations that feel creepy if you try and apply normal social norms to them, but you can't. And it sort of creates his isolation throughout it. It really helps build his isolation in it, I think.
Because that's actually what my second next thing on my list was here. I've got, is he a creep? Is he troubled? Does he have difficulties? Then in brackets, I was like, it was answered later. So it's like, because this is before you find out what's happened to him. And he's sort of spying, quote unquote, on...
Leslie Mann?
Leslie Mann. He's spying on her character. I'm thinking, this is a bit creepy. But as soon as I found out what's going on with him, I didn't think that anymore. I mean, but like you said, he sort of does lose his skills that he would have learned before the attack. How to be around people, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. He's a different man now, and he is lonely, and he tells you that in the film.
You know, and I've had brief interactions, not sort of close, but not sort of people that I know well. But I've had interactions with people who've had brain damage and things like that, and people around them are often are apologising for the behaviour and saying, you know, sorry, he's had a knock on the head, you know, and never been the same since the accident and all that sort of thing. And it does affect people's personalities, even in small ways. So you can understand with this, he's had a massive trauma. So he's had brain damage in itself, like physical brain damage, but mental scarring and things like that, that's created on him and things like all of that put into the one thing. It's no wonder that he's just watching porn and not feeling anything. But that's impactful in itself. You know, a lot of people think that's creepy, but people watch porn. You know, it's not an unusual thing for people to do, if that's what you want to do and that's what you like. It's more impactful that he's sitting watching it without feeling anything and then just casually dropping it into conversation that it's his favourite film. The laughter's sort of a problem in that situation, but I can't help myself from laughing. But they're telling you in that scene, you can't expect him to behave normally or what you would consider normal. This guy has got difficulties, and you're going to see that.
Because that's before you found out about the attack and stuff like that. That's one of my questions there. Is he a creep? Is he troubled? Has he got difficulties? Because I didn't know what kind of man I was watching here. I thought maybe he does have some kind of like learning difficulties or mental disabilities. And he does, but that's the thing. So this is going into maybe too deep. But it's like, did he have some of these things before the attack, and the attack has amplified them? And he's not. If I knew a person was looking at a new neighbour and then naming a doll after her and stuff like that, I'd be okay. Like, what are you doing? You know, what is this? That isn't really.
It feels strange,
the norm,
but it's completely innocent and things like that. Yeah.
But that's what I was going to get. He doesn't act on anything like that. He doesn't kidnap her and dress her up.
Were you thinking, because you wouldn't know where it was going, were you thinking this could be sort of a Disturbia type thing you were talking about, that film the other week? Did you think that he could be sort of like a David Morse from that or something? Or
I didn't go that far with it, but I was questioning at the start. I was thinking, okay, what is this exactly? Where is it going? But it's much more sort of heartfelt than creepy as the film develops.
Because I was going to say, it just sort of related to that. I've sort of got a positive and a negative. The dialogue I've got is quite ham-fisted, but there are some really good examples of language use and acceptance, and also missteps. So it's quite like an honest thing. So I was thinking about, like, so when Leslie Mann first brings him into the house, and she's saying, "Oh, my brother wears women's clothes and bras and he collects lingerie. Is that your fetish?" And he's like, "No, I just wear shoes and I don't really think it's a fetish." And he explains himself really well. You know, he explains why he feels comfortable with this and all that sort of thing. And it's really sort of, that's an honest back and forth. And you can learn a lot from that. You can learn how to broach conversations with people who have interests that are slightly outside what might be considered normal. And it is just such a small thing. Wearing women's shoes. And I'm I'm doing air quotes on women's, because how can they be women's shoes when they're his? And he identifies as a man. Shoes
typically designed for and primarily bought by women.
He's got his reasons for doing it, and it's such a non-thing, which is really annoying that this guy got beaten the fuck out of.
And it brings up, I could go off on one, but it brings up a bigger thing. It's like, who decided what clothes were for men and what for women? And I happen to wear what is thinking to be as men's clothes. You know, I don't wear skirts or dresses because I've been conditioned not to. You know, because then again...
But I sometimes think I could really do with a nice maxi dress. It's a really hot day and I could get some air about my balls. Like it would be really nice.
I've wore a kilt and that's acceptable. You know?
I've just thrown out a pair of women's shoes that I wore for about 3 years. They were trainers and they were £10 cheaper than the men's version, so I just bought women's shoes without issue. And they were fine.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I remember years ago I bought a pair of trainers. They were from the women's, again I'm quoting here, women's section. But I just put, I'll get these, I'll buy these are cool. And like, one of my friends like, they're girls' trainers. I'm like, I don't know, are they? I think they are. So, oh well. I've been wearing them for a few months.
I have women's pyjamas that I wear, you know, just because they were £2.50 and they were House Stark. You know, I sleep alone. This is not an issue. So yeah, it's
That's the thing. It's a weird. It brings up a lot of questions, and it's a weird sort of thing to be considered by these dickheads in this film, and obviously in real life, a bad thing.
another scene that I thought was quite impactful as well was the proposal scene.
And that's what I was going to get at before.
Oh, on you go then. Yeah, sorry, I'll let you do that one.
No, I was just going to say that it shows his sort of misunderstanding of the situation, and what you try to get at before is like. He has been attacked, he's suffering injuries, he's developed difficulties because of what's happened, and he does see the world in a little bit of a different way now. He maybe struggles to reach situations now that the majority of people might find easy to understand.
Yeah.
Because of, is he getting his world that he's creating and real life confused and blurred? He's created this love story.
There is a bit of that, yeah. But he is to be, when you look at it from the outside, he is to be forgiven for that.
Yeah.
And she does. And he also forgives her for what he thinks, forgives a bit of the wrong word here, but he accepts that he misread the situation, or she also apologises that if she gave him the wrong impression, and he gives her that picture at the end.
Yeah, I've heard that speech before.
Oops. Yeah, I mean, I've said that to people before.
Not as often as I've heard it, but
sorry if you were getting those vibes, but that's not for me. But yeah, so that sort of thing, it really sort of opens that up, and that I didn't cry the first time I watched it, but I cried this time when she gets the thank you note.
Right, yeah.
In the picture, it's just, I think it's really beautiful in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
There are some negatives, but genuinely there are some beautiful moments in this, and it's earnest in its attempts. It's not like they went in there to take the piss out of this guy. Some people feel that they've misrepresented him or not put his story across in the best way possible, which I can sort of agree with, but I think their intentions were honest.
Yeah. I think the more important thing is as well, does he think he's been misrepresented? Because that's the most important thing.
It's always going to be different, isn't it? Because I suppose that all of this was going on inside of his head.
Yeah.
And he's now portrayed that to filmmakers who've now interpreted it and put it all on screen. And looking at the still images that he created, I can't see that the way it's played out in this would have been what he was thinking. I think what was going on in his head would have been way more personal and way more epic in scope.
Yeah.
I imagine. I don't know. But I do like when they come out, though, when they zoom back and it turns into the still image that he's taking.
Yeah.
And you just see that moment that he's capturing, which is what he does really well as an artist.
And I do love how the blend from the Toys Story animation into real life. Like the one that stood out a lot was when they're driving, the toys are driving, they're talking. All of a sudden they just stop and the camera pulls out and he's pulling them along with his little.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's just it's seamless.
It is, yeah.
And there's a bit where it's when the toys are in the bar, and then there's a flash and he's taking a picture of them, and you can see him in the mirror.
Yeah,
and it's just beautiful.
It really is, yeah. And it's that sort of transition. It's like he's learned from Roger Rabbit. Like watching these two back to back is really interesting because there's a lot of crossover in style and
nearly 30 years later.
It's amazing. I was going to talk music as well, if you don't mind, in the positives.
I've just written down score, but I didn't really elaborate. So
Alan Silvestri again, because he teams up with him a lot. And I've wrote down. I'm just listening to it. I was like, it feels like an Amblin film, and it feels like Forrest Gump meets Indiana Jones.
Right? Yeah.
There's a lot of that sort of motifs from the Feathers theme that seems to. It's not the same, but it does come across when he's on happier moments and things like that. And it is way more Indiana Jones when he's the action stuff and all that going on. So that's what sort of came across for me in that. There's also the soundtrack. Like, there's a lot of really good music, and you've got, like, Jack White, I'm Shaking in this, Dandy Warhol's Bohemian Like You. You've got all that from, like, all the way to Glenn Miller, Moonlight Serenade, and...
Yeah.
I would buy this soundtrack. There's a lot of good music. In fact, I wouldn't need to, because I've got most of it, but there's a lot of really good music on it.
You're on about some of the lines before, how some of them might not come across how he was intended and stuff.
Yeah.
I've just got one here. It's like how he collects women's essence.
Yeah.
That is a creepy line.
Have you seen the the new Dark Crystal on Netflix series?
I haven't, no.
Well, the Skeksis collect and drink the life essence of the Gelflings, and that's what I was thinking of. They basically kill the Gelflings, distill their essence down, and drink it to live forever. And I was like, and when he was talking about women's essence, I just had that in my head.
Live forever. I like how obviously they could have shown his attack. They touched on it a little bit. Mm-hmm. There was like maybe 10 seconds of his attack.
Yeah.
But you don't really see a lot. But there is a lot of violence in the film, and it all comes out through the toys. And I like that.
I actually think it's more effective not seeing it, because one thing as well is he doesn't want to face it.
Yeah.
So I think that's why you don't see it until later on in the film.
Yeah.
He faces it through his confrontation of the Nazi soldiers and things like that, and that fairy thing is literally his demon, which he then exercises at the end and all that sort of thing. Like, one of my negatives is that it's very much a one-to-one analogy.
Yeah.
You don't have to dig too deep to find what the meaning is behind this scene. Like, he's got a demon, and that's his demon that he needs to exercise. One of the guys who attacked him has a swastika or tattoo on his arm, and he's then represented by the Nazi soldiers and things like that. Like,
and Leslie Mann's ex is called Kurt, and the Nazi generally happens to is called Kurt.
Yeah.
It's a bit, The one thing I didn't like, and it's not so much how the film was done, but it's kind of like what they said. So if I got it right, the demon character, Deja something, was basically his pills, his medication.
Right, okay.
Because he flushed the pills when he got rid of the demon and exorcised the demon. And I was getting, are they trying to say the medication is what's holding him back? Because that's not a good thing to say.
I think what was happening there, my reading of it anyway, and again, mine could be wrong. You may have stumbled on something that I've missed, but my reading of that was that he was able to get rid of the medication because he'd freed himself of the demon.
Right, maybe.
So I thought it was a bit quick. You're right, though. It happened so quick that you could read that into it, absolutely.
I was thinking, is he getting rid of the demon by flushing the pills?
Yeah.
That's what's... Are you stopping Dick? Are you saying the medication's not helping you? Because that's not a good message to send out there.
No.
I mean, sometimes it doesn't help people.
The medication does various different things, and that's why you need to consult with your doctors and things like that to make sure that the balance of medication that you're on is correct for whatever it is that you're dealing with at any given time, and that will change.
Sure, yeah. Yes. Thanks, Doctor.
Always seek professional medical advice, is what I'm saying.
I know, just another little, it's not really negative, just like a little nitpick I had here. There's a couple of them. So he doesn't feel like he can go to court for the sentencing.
Yes.
But he said, the judge needs to know your thoughts, needs to know what you think. And I was thinking, surely you could just do it by video link.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are screens that you can put up so they can't see you and things like that. There is a lot of that.
We wouldn't have had a dramatic effect, as you know.
I've known people who've had to go to court, and I had to go to court as a witness myself once. It's fucking nerve-wracking, and I hadn't even done anything. I was barely involved. I was just there to say some things. But I know that they do try and do that, lawyers. They try and get you in there to face up, and there are reasons behind that, and it can be beneficial for victims, but it's a really, well, I can imagine it's a really difficult thing to do.
But that's why I was sitting there going, surely they can just do it by video or have a screen up. But like, it is, for the film, you want to.
There isn't a huge amount of drama in this. Well, it's a huge amount of drama. It's really traumatic for this guy's life.
Yeah.
I wasn't a huge fan of he can't see the love that's right in front of him. He's chasing the wrong woman, sort of thing. I thought that was a bit Hollywood. I don't know whether that relates to real life or not,
Yeah.
But it is a bit sort of standard Hollywood fare, isn't it, that? And the bit where Leslie Mann doesn't really face him, she smiles from a distance, then walks off.
At the end,
in the gallery, as if their relationship is sort of ruined. I'm like, no, you can fix this with they've made up.
Yeah.
I cried at that last scene when he gave her that picture and said thank you. He was grateful for her involvement. It's got him to where he is. Ultimately, she helped him. They had a bit of a misstep along the way. They're still neighbours. Let's have a cup of tea.
She's got plenty of teapots for it. I was thinking for that scene, maybe because they do have that hint of, shall we go for sushi now? Oh, I'm not really used to it. I don't know if I like it or not. Hitting that, let's go for a date. I don't know if we should. So I was thinking maybe if she did go up to them at the end, go up to him, and say well done on your exhibition or whatever, maybe it might have taken away from
the sort of catharsis of him going out for sushi with that woman. Yeah, aye.
Maybe, but I get what you mean though. It's like, yeah, it's just they did seem to resolve it and then sort of hint at maybe they're not, maybe it's not all good.
I actually thought standout as well was Merritt Weaver, the one who he goes with at the end. Weaver or Weaver, I think it's Weaver. I thought she was really good. Fantastic performance from her as well. I mean,
really good, yeah.
I don't think it passed the Bechdel test. I don't think it needs to.
Yeah.
There are, because at the beginning I thought, I put in my positives, I was like, female characters, ? And then I'm like, no,
there's a lot
actually,
of them.
it starts off quite promising, and they only seem to be there to serve him. That said, this is his story, so I think this is one of those situations where, yes, there are a lot of female characters surrounding him, but it doesn't matter that much that doesn't pass the Bechdel test because it's a story about him. And they are supporting him through it. Sort of thing.
If it was an original story, maybe you could have said, okay, maybe it could have been a female lead character.
Yeah.
But it's a true story. This is,
But it only fails on point 3, though, because there are definitely more than one female character in the film. They do talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately not about anything other than him.
Yep.
So it only fails on point 3. We're almost there. Are they self-aware, the dolls?
I'd say no.
Because they seem to have some conversations when he's not listening about how they're going to escape, and he's got them trapped there in this sort of torture thing. And I'm like,
Good point. Oh, yeah, that's when
he first comes back.
When the Nicole doll...
Yeah, and it's like, they're like, don't get too close to him. The woman gets shot in the back and stuff like that. Like,
yeah.
Dear. So they're aware of the situation that they're in. So I think.
Yeah. Or maybe that's just his mind going overtime when he's when he's making it.
Gwendolyn Christie?
All her friend is Gwendolyn Christie, and about 4 exclamation marks.
I forgot how little she actually got to do. I remember her from the first time I watched it through thinking she made an impact, but she's only in like one scene.
Yeah, obviously she doesn't. Her doll features not a lot either.
Yeah, she gets killed almost immediately, doesn't she? So, I wasn't too sure about her accent, but she's good. She's good, Gwendolyn Christie.
Again, she could do whatever. She's amazing.
Yeah.
I did like how, there's a scene earlier on, and it's a very sort of throwaway line. One of his friends, I do like all the relationships he has in the town. I do like how everyone seems to really like this guy.
Yeah.
And they're all very sympathetic towards him, but not in a condescending way.
Yeah.
They're all, the lass who's one of her doll's the bartender, but she's like the chef in the bar.
Yes.
She's like the cook in the bar. She sits there and talks to him about what could to an outsider seem like a very strange situation, very odd.
Yeah, she's asking about her character and stuff.
She's proper invested in it, and I love that. But so I love all the characters, but one of them mentions why do the Nazis keep coming back to life? And I think it's a very throwaway line. I saw it as like, I put a question mark here. Like, is the Nazis always coming back to life a metaphor for like flashbacks in like basically like not letting go of the past and moving on? So it's like that's like his sort of flashbacks, his nightmares keep coming back to him. So that's to me like that's why the Nazis keep coming back to life.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's why. And that's when I realised how obviously the dolls represent the guys. Because I don't know why, but not till near the end where I realised the Nazi dolls, are representing the guys who beat him up. I was like, of course they are. Why didn't I say
But I think you're supposed to come to that realisation gradually if you don't know what you're going into. I knew what it was from the beginning because I'd watched loads about it in the run up to the film coming out. But yeah, if you didn't know that, I think you're taking the journey that the film's leading you on. So yeah, that's when you're supposed to know. Yeah, absolutely.
Again, another thing, a little nitpick. I know I keep talking, but there's a little nitpick there. I thought dolls couldn't close their eyes, but they always close their eyes.
Well, he can't, can he? I suppose.
But because they say something about like
close your eyes. I can't them at all.
Blink for me if you hear me or something. When they think they're dead, their eyes are closed. They do blink when they're talking. And one that really annoyed me was they were talking about making the time machine to go 15 million light years into the future.
No.
I was like, what? Why did this get passed?
I know. That's not how that works. That's not what light years are.
It wasn't till recently when I found out why it's called a light year. I just thought made a name for it.
No.
But yeah, it's to do with
the time
the light to travel.
The light to travel a distance, yeah.
So I was like, oh, that makes sense now. But yeah, it's always...
So that's worse than, what do you call it, the 12 parsecs, isn't it? In Star Wars, yeah. There's a Kessel Run in 12 parsecs.
12 or 14. It's always a thing about 12 or 14, because one film says it wrong.
People say 14 and he's like 12.
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, yes, is that a time or is that...
It's a measurement of distance, isn't it?
Yeah. But there's just little things like that that annoyed me in the film. Like, I thought dolls couldn't close their eyes.
Let's face it, though. I mean, this is an entirely made-up world in his head that he's just taking single images.
Well, yeah.
I actually really want to buy the book now. I tried to look at that as well. I tried to look at getting that book because one thing, it does inspire you to do more. Like I said with The Walk. When I watched The Walk, I was like, I really enjoyed that film. He did a lot with it, and I really want to now see the documentary of the original guy. And I like the documentary as much as the Zemeckis and what's his name, Gordon Levitt film. Really good, but that's so scary. See it in IMAX, and oh, holy shit, you feel scared because you are tightroping between the two towers.
I've never seen that film.
Even at home, I'm like, oh, I'm up high here. I'm not. I'm just sat down.
And there's another line that kind of question. You know, I was on about the whole pill thing. It's like, I was taking that as you were saying pills are the thing holding them back from moving on. And so when he's doing his speech at court at the end, he was a bit drunk, blah, 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 and he says, they beat me up. And he says something like, I knew I should have kept my mouth shut when he mentioned about wearing women's shoes. I get what he was going for there, but at the same time, no, don't keep your mouth shut. You know, be proud of what you do. I get it.
Yeah.
So I know that's maybe not what they were trying to say there. Like, if he hadn't been honest about himself, it wouldn't have happened. Yeah, I get it.
But then I suppose when he says it in the court, he says, yes, I shouldn't have done that, but that's still no reason to do what they did. And you're like, okay, all right, yeah. But yeah, it doesn't get everything right, but I think it did try, at least this film anyway.
Yeah, and it's still like, that's the thing, because it wasn't until the credits started rolling that I realised this was a true story. Mm-hmm. So I've written down here, nice surprise.
Right, okay. Yeah. Not like that Michael Bay one, that Pain and Gain, where I'm like, this is a terrible surprise.
But that's the thing, because it's like, at the same time, I'm glad I didn't know it was a true story. But then there is a couple of things, like I said, I've questioned about him being creepy and all that. I was like, oh, I feel a bit bad now. But I was going into it with, like, you know, with closed eyes. I didn't know what I was getting into. I would like to watch it again, knowing it's a true story, and see if I do get anything else from it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a rewatch. I mean, I'm glad I watched it again, having already seen it. I always prefer watching these twice when we're trying to review them, because I think you lose a lot when you try to take notes. Waffle Award?
Yes.
I thought the animation, Steve Carell's performance, or possibly a serious one for this week, survivors of PTSD?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Go on, say a funny thing, Sean.
No. I was trying to think of maybe something, but no. No, definitely. Because that's what I got from this.
This was the first time that I actually thought of PTSD not just as in people coming back from war.
Yeah.
And this was sort of the first time I've ever seen in a film of post-traumatic stress being dealt with from an everyday person growing up and in the world, and then just having a traumatic experience in the life and having to get over that and deal with the consequences. And I mean, this guy's life's never going to be the same again. Yeah.
And it's very important for things like that, because I didn't realise until fairly recently, because again, you're right, either someone's having a fight or England might have scored again. I always associated PTSD with, you know, like you said, soldiers coming back.
Yeah.
But you can get it, like, it's recognised now, the slightest thing can cause it. Women giving birth, you know, like, even, like, being, like, involved in, like, an altercation with someone, even if there's no violence involved. The threat, just anything. And I think it's important to show, like, a film like this is very important to show that.
Sort of, for me, you appreciate how much of an easy role I've had of it, sort of thing in life, you know. You just think, oh, anything like that could just happen to anyone at any point in their life, you know. And anything such as wearing a different type of shoes. I mean, I'm sure there are things that I do in my life that would annoy groups of people that I wouldn't realise or, you know, I wouldn't sort of consciously know or anything like that, you know. It can happen to anyone, and it's terrifying, really.
Oh, definitely.
So, yeah, Waffle Award goes to survivors of PTSD for this week, I think. That's a nice one. Reviews? Do you want some reviews, or if you have anything else to say? Or you can always say what you want afterwards, or anything else. It's 1-1, by the way.
England have definitely just scored.
Have they? All right, okay, I'll refresh. That could be not England scoring, couldn't it, I suppose?
They sound happy about it, though. They sound happy.
All right, okay. It's difficult to tell, I think, with football fans.
yeah.
It's all very aggressive, I feel. And yeah, so I don't really know.
So one thing I will say, though, there's quite a funny little bit here. I didn't pick up on it. There's not a lot of swearing in this film. And not at all, really, any. And when they do swear, they'll say like random other words. I can't think of any examples. But there's a bit, though, when he spells out fuck.
All right.
It's in the scene at the start, the whole animated chase scene, the whole battle scene at the start, when he's in the aeroplane. He says, Foxtrot Uniform Charlie Kilo.
Really? I didn't even notice that.
I didn't. I found it in the trivia.
2-1 to England.
Yeah, it's 2-1, yeah. In real life, only 3 of the attackers actually went to prison, but they were all released within 2 years, even though they were given a lot longer sentences. I couldn't figure out how long it was.
It's horrifying, isn't it?
But in real life, he was in a coma for 9 days after the attack. It's just friggin' all because he has different views of what other people have. It's fucking horrible. People are arseholes.
Yeah, I mean, he's lost that talent for drawing. And the thing about when he had that conversation with Leslie Mann again, it's like you really sort of get that insight. That's a really good scene, I think. Actually, it gives you insights into absolutely everything. It's played well because they're trying to figure each other out and things like that. And he just sort of opens up. He's quite open about everything, and he says, oh no, I like to wear women's shoes. I get connected to their essence and all that sort of thing. He's like, no, I don't have any memories of anything that I did before this. I imagine I was quite good at drawing. And then he goes to his cupboard and he's like, I came back here and I thought, oh, do I have a wife? Whose are all these shoes? And you're like, oh, yeah, that's awful.
Yeah, it must be horrible. I don't think I've ever lost memory. Not even when I get really drunk. Like when I used to get drunk. Like I didn't even lose memory when I was on a night out. I remember everything that would happen on a night out.
I think I lose and recontextualise memories at a normal rate, I think.
But no, it must be horrible. I can't even imagine.
So the review section, this is where we read some reviews and review the reviews. So this is 34% on Rotten Tomatoes and the consensus is... Welcome to Marwen has dazzling effects and sadly compelling story, but the movie's disjointed feel and clumsy screenplay makes the invitation easy to decline. So I think that probably is an easy to decline invitation, given that this one cost anywhere between 39 and 50 million, and it made 13. Yeah, so
I read this. Yeah.
So we didn't go and see this one, did we? I'm sorry, Robert Zemeckis. I was ready to. It just didn't last long enough in the cinemas. Yep. It was gone before I got there. So.
Well, like I said, I just not knowing. If I knew this was a true story, I might have given it a shot when it was out.
I think it came out quite close to The Secret World of Walter Mitty or whatever it was, and I thought they looked quite similar.
Right, yeah.
I didn't see that one either. Still haven't seen that one, but I've heard lots of good things about it. I've actually heard someone recommending that to me recently.
Is that Ben Stiller?
Ben Stiller, yeah. It's meant to be really good based on a book, and apparently it's quite a faithful adaptation. People who like the book tend to like the film, which is nice and unusual, isn't it? Right, so some of the reviews, I'm going to read off about 3, because they're sort of similar, and we've already kind of talked about it. So, Matt Kipola from Film Monthly. The film never realises it, but Mark is depicted as a total creep. And Welcome to Marwen explores trauma and gender identity with the tact of a plane crash. Corey Coleman from Double Toasted says, this is almost like the creepy sequel to 40-Year-Old Virgin. And Amy Nicholson, who I think you probably know, was writing for Film Week at the time, but she's the head critic for the LA Weekly, says, I didn't find this creepy. Maybe I'm just creepy.
I like that.
So I lumped those ones together because we've kind of already talked about it, but people thought this was creepy, and I get why you might think that, and you kind of felt that. But...
Yeah, I thought it at the start, but then I realised what happened. The creepiness went away.
Yeah.
Because I felt empathy for him.
Not to cast aspersions on critics, but I think if you think this is creepy, you're not empathetic enough towards the character. And yes, I suppose that the first one mentions that they're a bit ham-fisted with the treatment of gender politics and all that sort of stuff. I can't disagree with that, so I can see why you might find it creepy, but I don't agree.
There's a few things they could have done, but as soon as I found out what had happened to him, I didn't see him as creepy anymore. I mean, I can't understand in the sense of I've not done the same things, I don't have the same interests.
Yeah.
But I got it.
Marianne Johansson of Flick Philosopher Says,
All right.
the plastic terror of the Polar Express melded with the cookie charm of Forrest Gump is a bad, sometimes outright icky way to tell a story of trauma and recovery, and does a disservice to Steve Carell's sensitive performance.
I don't know.
I quite like that review.
Yeah, I like the words used there.
Yeah.
I like the way that was
It's quite well crafted, isn't it?
constructed. Yeah, crafted. That's what I was in for. Yeah.
But and I get it as well. Like, I do think that Steve Carell's performance in this is better than the film as a whole.
And I know this shouldn't be the case, but sadly it is. I think if the film was more well received, he might have found himself getting a few nominations for this.
Yes, I think he would have. Again, coming off the back of Foxcatcher, he was nominated for everything for that, wasn't he? And he wrote it all the way, and I think he could have done, had it been a better vehicle. So we see.
Yeah.
A peculiar hybrid that feels too strange for multiplex audiences and too schmaltzy for the art house crowd.
Yeah,
Stephen Whitty of Screen International said that.
I get it, but then again, that annoys me just because it reminds me, like, I like to think I can watch and appreciate any film, but then I do need to remember that some people only do like big blockbustery type films, and other people only do like sort of art housey kind of
I
stuff.
saw a quote from I think it was Jon Favreau recently that said, I think films should have happy endings because there's enough bad going on in the world that when you come to a film, you should be able to be lifted up. And I thought, no, I like to be surprised by films.
Yeah.
I like films that don't even have endings. So sometimes that's my favourite. Where you're like, what's going on
It's
now?
like with this one, it does kind of have an happy ending.
Oh, absolutely.
But then at the same time, I like it how you think he's going to get with Leslie Mann's character at the end, and they're going to realise the love. And I like how he doesn't get the girl. And I like how the girl that kind of...
It's who sees him and gets him and feels him and things like that, yeah.
Yeah, he might not get that yet, but he's willing to be open to see what happens and give it a chance. Maybe try a bit of sushi, see if he likes it.
Exactly, yeah. And I think, the thing is, it is him overcoming his trauma, and he does do that by the end, and it's an inspiring story because he has overcome it, and he's not the same man he was before, but he's evolved, and he is a different person, and he's strong for it. I think it's really good. So slightly more of a positive one coming up, I think. A noble effort to transfer his story to the big screen, tackling big issues, if not always with the care they might deserve. Oddly putting millions into the effects only served to make the original still images appear more impactful. A masterful performance by Carell carries most of the dramatic weight, with a great support from Leslie Mann and Merritt Weaver, who serve the protagonist well.
That was you.
That was me, yeah. Quite good at guessing. I mean, it's obviously because I don't say the name of the person after.
Yeah. And I was thinking, Billy just agrees with this person, because I listened to what you said.
I'm maybe going to try and give myself a pen name and see if you can find me in amongst them, in amongst the weeds. David Elric of IndieWire. The messaging here is dangerous at best, as the more complex truths of Mark's trauma are steamrolled by Zemeckis' reckless desire to turn the guy's mind into a theme park ride.
Reckless is a bit strong, I think.
Yeah, I do think that Zemeckis just didn't have a hold or couldn't fully realise maybe what he was going for in this. I think he's a really good director, really good filmmaker. I just maybe think he was a bit disconnected from this material or something.
Yeah, I think he was on the right track, but maybe took a wrong turn somewhere.
Sam Adams of Slate, we've got two left. Marwen is the work of a filmmaker who's never been more sure of his craft and never less connected to anything resembling actual human experience. I don't think Sammy liked that one.
No, I don't think he's a fan.
And Courtney Howard of Fresh Fiction. Welcome to Marwen turns everything progressive into something problematic. Not doing right by any of its heroes, especially its diverse female characters.
Again, I agree, but maybe not to the extent.
Yes.
Like the whole bit about the female characters, like, yeah, I get it.
I agree with that, but also you're reviewing a film that they weren't trying to make.
That's...
Which is almost what I got into earlier on with the female characters, and we try and avoid every time when we do this. that is a film that they did not set out to make, so let's not criticise them for that. It's not a film about female characters. It's about this one guy and the inside of his head and the trauma that he's had.
Yeah. And I mean, again, these aren't the important bits, but there are a lot more female characters in this than there is male characters. Yeah, like you said, maybe there is. Someone could have had a bit more time, a bit more to them, but that's not, like you said, that's not the point. It's not the point.
Yeah, well, the female characters in this film are all there to serve the one male protagonist, but this film is about the one male protagonist, so I forgive them for that.
Yeah, and it just so happens to be, like we said, it's a true story, so I think to an extent when you're telling true stories or stories based on true stories, if you want the full real story, watch the documentary. If you want an entertainment adaptation of that, watch the film. It's like, I'm a stickler for when it comes to like history and stuff like that. I love it. Braveheart's one of my favourite films. Fucking nothing in that is historically accurate. Brilliant film. But it's not meant to be. But yeah, it's like the women, it just so happens that this is based on a true story where that was what happened. So you change too much of it, you're going away from the story you want to tell. So yeah, they could have given women more to do, or, different sort of, their own sort of story arcs and give them more compelling things to latch onto, but then you're getting away from the story you're telling.
Yeah. Completely agree with you there, Sean. Absolutely. Robert Zemeckis, then. Is that us?
I think it is.
Your favourite, then?
Favourite and best is different. I think my favourite is Forrest Gump. I don't know what it is. I freaking love that film. Absolutely love it.
I honestly don't get the hate for that either, because that's come under a lot of scrutiny and people seem to dislike that, don't they?
I think it's just one of those things, because I think at the time it was one of the, like, obviously it got lots of Oscars and stuff like that, and it was one of the big ones at the time, but I think it's one of those films that over time, people for some reason get fed up with it.
I've really enjoyed going to Bubba Grump's Shrimp Hut, though. If only for that coming out of it, that's a really fun place to go for a meal.
Right. I didn't know you could. I didn't know there was such a thing, but I'm all for it.
You can, yeah. You've got little table tennis paddles on the table, and on one side it says "Run, Forrest, Run," and on the other side it says "Stop, Forrest, Stop."
I think you've told me about this.
All the servers are just running around the restaurant all the time. And if you turn it to "Stop, Forrest, Stop," they run up to your table, stop, and say, "Stop, Forrest, stop, can I take your order?"
I would just keep turning and turning.
People do. And I think that wears thin quite quickly.
Yeah. Again, there's not many of his films I don't like. I was just looking there at his IMDb. I didn't realise he's directing the live action adaptation of Disney's Pinocchio.
He is. Did you see that one that came out last year? Very weird looking.
No,
it looked like a horror or something like that. Yeah. And it just so happens that there are a couple of Pinocchios in the works at the same time. I know he's doing that. I'm not excited for that. I don't know why.
Tom Hanks is playing Geppetto.
Is he?
It's a decent cast.
That's gonna be good. Tom Hanks is Geppetto.
Hanks.
That because Geppetto's a weird character. If you really break it down, you can play him in many different ways. But if you've got Tommy Hanks, then you're going to be all right, aren't you? You're in good hands there.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt is Jim Lee Cricket.
Like it. He really likes Joseph Gordon-Levitt, actually.
He does, yeah, he does. Yeah. He turns up in a lot of his stuff, doesn't he?
Back to the Future probably is my favourite film of his, but I really like The Walk. I've talked about it quite a bit as we've gone through here, and I think I might just bung it on after we finish. It's a really good film and really well done, and it's sort of in that style where this guy is a Frenchman, so they play this sort of... How would you describe it? There's bits of French mime in there. It's a little bit Amelie. It's a little bit Charlie Chaplin in bits and things like that. There's a lot of stuff going on in the beginning part of the film. They play it like a heist because it is a heist. It's like a coup, he calls it.
Right.
I watched it's a really good, watch the documentary and The Walk in the same night. Do the dramatization first and then go on the documentary. Both are absolutely fantastic. Really amazing things. You're right about Castaway, but I think it's got to be Back to the Future for me.
That's the one I'll rewatch more.
A lot of these remind me of watching films with my dad. Like, you've got your Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Romance in the Stone. Like, all of the Romance in the Stone films, they were on, sort of Saturday, Sunday nights, watching with parents and the family and things like that. But I think Back to the Future really is that one. Because you remember watching that, I think you will as well, with your dad for the first time. And then as you grow up, you realise that it is about connecting with your father.
Yeah.
It does raise that question. If you met your dad as a teenager, would you two get on? That's what led them to this story sort of thing. And
Yeah.
Kathleen Kennedy got made. So I think it's that. I think it's Back to the Future. But nothing that I don't like.
I mean, that's what I was going to say. To me, like, that's probably his best, Back to the Future. But like I said, Forrest Gump's probably my favourite. But yeah, Back to the Future is one I've watched more. Like, and I love the trilogy as a whole. I love them all. Obviously, the first one I think is the best. I mean, I'm sitting here as a 33-year-old with a framed Back to the Future poster on my wall over there.
Yeah.
So it's like, it is an amazing film. I love it.
I've got a Back to the Future banner in my bedroom.
I've got a toy DeLorean over there.
I'd love a DeLorean. I'd love to have one to kit out and stuff like that. It's so expensive. I've been, or actually,
Getting something.
Can you see it?
All right, there we go. What's this? Oh, it's you in the DeLorean. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
it's me in a DeLorean, wearing the jacket and the hat.
Are you dressed as him as well?
Yeah. Got the life preserver on and the flashy hat from 2, and I'm also holding a hoverboard. I really wanted a hoverboard. Remember that fake thing about hoverboards saying hoverboards are real?
Oh, right, yeah.
They put it together in a desert. They had all this test footage of hoverboards working and things like that. Like, oh yeah, we've got them. They just won't let us release them because they're dangerous. And everyone's like, I want a fucking hoverboard. And then they got their weird things out.
Yeah, I hate those things where the wheels get called hoverboards.
It's not a hoverboard.
And this is the whole light years thing again. It doesn't fucking hover. It's a wheelboard.
I actually went to on Back to the Future Day, the day that he travels forward to in 2015.
Right, yeah.
I booked the entire trilogy that night in the cinema.
Nice. Oh, yeah, you did,
So on that day, I went to see Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3. And the thing, because I'd never seen them on the big screen. Back to the Future came out when I was 1, so I'd never seen them on the big screen. And the detail that you see when you see them on the big screen is amazing. Like all the clocks and things like that. I didn't even notice that the clock at the beginning has Doc Brown hanging off it.
I don't think I noticed that, but I think I've seen or heard read someone mentioning that.
Yeah.
I went to the cinema to see it with a friend on the 25th anniversary of the first one.
Right.
It's just a cool experience seeing something like a film that came out before I was born, but in the cinema.
I had a chance to see Christopher Lloyd last year. He was at a Comic-Con that was at, but it was about 85 quid to meet him.
I'd love to meet him, but yeah, not that much.
I'm like, I can't do that. I think the thing as well about Back to the Future is that that's a sort of time capsule for Michael J. Fox.
Yeah. We
missed out on what a shame for us. We missed out on so much he could have given. It's his life.
Yeah, what a shame. yeah.
But it's such a shame for him. He was a joy to watch.
Oh, yeah.
And it's such a shame that he didn't get to perform anymore because he was really good at it.
I don't know if he still does now, but I know a couple of years ago he had, was it a sitcom he had? Can't remember what it was now, but yeah, I think he's done a few things. But
he started off as the making of Back to the Future's amazing, isn't it?
Really interesting. Yeah, it's amazing.
Contact. What do you think of Contact?
I think I've only seen that once. And I think it was years ago. I think it was again with my dad, and I don't think I paid attention to it as I should have.
I loved it. I felt like it was really high concept sci-fi, and that's it sparked something in me. Contact, because it was like, wow, this is weird and interesting. It's probably not as clever as I remember it being because I was being a child when I watched it.
Right.
And What Lies Beneath.
Right. Yeah.
That's just sort of I've still got that. I might break that out again as well. Most of these films I do have. He got really into his animation. He's had varying degrees of success, but that review that we read about Polar Express, that aesthetic,
it's a weird kind of thing.
We need to bridge the uncanny valley. It's like what you were saying about Love, Death and Robots, isn't it?
Yeah.
We haven't quite got it right, and I really enjoyed Beowulf, but it's not quite right, is it?
I don't think I watched that.
Same with his Christmas Carol. He's got he had a run of them, didn't he? He went Polar Express, Beowulf, Christmas Carol, and then Welcome to Marwen. All basically animated. He did Flight and the Walk and Allied in between that.
Christmas Carol was alright, but not one of my. I love that story. Not one of my favorite adaptations.
I don't think I've seen it all the way through.
I still to see an adaptation of Christmas Carol that's better than the Muppets.
There shall never be one. I don't think there can be.
Actually,
is there anything else on Robert Zemeckis, or should we just thank him for the other half of our childhood that Steven Spielberg didn't give us?
Yeah, I think that's what we should do. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird because he's one of these. I know him, obviously, not personally. I know his work. I know what he does, and I like a lot of his films. But it's only actually looking at the films he's done.
Yeah.
A lot of his films are in my top, like my favourites. So yeah, I freaking love Robert Zemeckis.
It's funny, I do as well, yeah, and I think I get more excited when he's bringing a film out than I do with like a Spielberg, just to see what he's doing. So, yeah. Thank you, Robert Zemeckis, for the other half of my childhood. Very good films.
Yes.
Please continue.
I'm going to get that on a t-shirt.
I just thank you, Robert Zemeckis, on the front, and thank you, Steven Spielberg, on the back. End of podcast?
Yes, I think so.
Right. Thank you, everyone, for listening thus far. Well, at least an hour and a half by the time we edit all this out. So if you've made it this far, thank you very much for listening. And if you haven't, fuck you. On next week's podcast, we are doing the Brian episode.
Yes.
One of our listeners, Brian, as you've heard earlier on in the podcast, sent us a voicemail in suggesting that we watch The Outsiders. Little did you know, he's also sent us in a request for directors via email. So we thought we'd just take him up on all of his offers and we'll do what he wants us to do. So we're doing The Outsiders as his tip, and then film review, we're going to do is it Wes Craven?
Yes.
No, it's John Carpenter.
John Carpenter. Yes.
Yeah. Brian wants us to do John Carpenter as a director, so we're not doing his best and worst, we're doing what Brian thinks is his best and possibly worst rated, but they're actually not. So we're doing The Thing and Big Trouble in Little China, because those are the ones that Brian suggested that we watch. I've seen both, and I think I really enjoy both. You, Sean?
I've seen bits of Big Trouble in Little China, I think.
Right.
You never seen The Thing. I don't mind horrors and stuff, but The Thing just looks really creepy at me. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm not good with horrors, but I did really enjoy The Thing when I watched it for the first time, I think just last year. And I got Big Trouble in Little China for a birthday, I think when I was about 10-year old, because one of my uncles had forgotten to buy me a birthday present. I mentioned it was my birthday when I went round, and he was like, pick a video. And it will be that video that I'm watching.
Nice.
That exact copy.
I do remember seeing that in your house, actually.
It's in that VHS cupboard.
Yeah.
That's where it is, so it's coming out for the next episode. So thank Brian, and we hope you enjoy what we say.
And it's a street party going. I think England must have won. I hear fireworks.
Before we finish the episode, let's check to see where England are. Full time 2-1.
Yeah, I actually do hear fireworks. Well, they're in the final. Well done.
Well done, England, for beating Denmark in the football thing.
I know you're not the biggest football fan or a football fan at all.
I'm not the sports, but do you enjoy it, do you?
I enjoy it. I mean, I'm not as engraved in it. No, that's not the right word.
Clearly not, because we're recording a podcast when there's a semi-final of a massive tournament.
Well, you know. And also, even though, I don't go for all this crap, but I'm technically Scottish and we got put out in the knockout, in the frigging group stages, so yeah. But
yeah.
No, well done. You're in the final, England, for the first time in 50 years.
Interestingly, when this comes out, we will know whether or not England won the whole tournament or not.
So well done for winning, or never mind, there's always the next one.
Yeah, exactly. Aye. So well done, England. Right then. Thank you very much for listening. Get in touch with us if you are keen. We really want to hear from you. Give us your recommendations, and you could be the next Brian, who we don't know. We don't know who he is. He's just a guy.
Brian the Postie.
But we do know that he's a postie. You mentioned that. So if you're a postie, or if you're not a postie, get in touch. You can leave us a voicemail at www.speakpipe.com/wafflepod. Give us your recommendations, requests, questions, or reviews. Send us a review of the films that we've just mentioned. You can email us on w.a.f.l.e.pod@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook at Whitty Analysis of Feature Films and Light Entertainment. And you can find us on Twitter, Waffle Podcast 1, and YouTube, Waffle Podcast. And please follow our Podbean affiliate link to create your own podcast or advertise right here, right now. And as we always say on this, I love you more than anyone's ever loved a rabbit. Goodbye. I enjoyed that one.